Well, good morning. It's Monday morning and I can't decide whether it wants to rain out or be sunny. It's kind of sunny right now, but that could change any second. Welcome to New England. I'm on my way to Vermont for a 2 Grannies on the Road trip. And my guest granny this week is Sharon Colvin, and she lives up in Fletcher, Vermont. So I'm going up to her house and we're going to have some fun the next 3 days. So why don't you come along?
We're here today with Linda Dimmick in Neighborly Farm in Randolph. It's an organic certified cheese farm, and we're going to be talking to Linda today. So exactly how did the farm come about?
Well, back in the 60s, Russ and Sharon Dimmick, my in-laws, moved up from Connecticut. Sharon was from Granby, Connecticut, and Russell was from Stafford Springs. And he worked on farms growing up and just always wanted to have a dairy farm. That was his life's dream. So they moved up in '67, I believe, and bought the farm. This was a really rundown farm. Like, the house was drafty, the barn was drafty, old cows, old equipment, and they bought the whole place for like $60,000. And somehow Russell's mother, she scraped together some money to help them get the down payment.
Oh,
which is
so
really
it's it's a family. It's
Yeah.
a family business.
Yeah.
So how many of your Dimmick family work here?
Well, so Russ and Sharon had the farm for 25 years, and they sold the cows in the late 80s. They had started another business right here on the farm, a trailer sales business, like cow trailers, horse trailers, and it really started to take off. And so they decided to move that business off the farm, and they asked both sons, do you want to run the dairy farm? And they both said, no, we've had enough. No. Of course, my husband was only 18, so he didn't really know what he wanted to do. But they both said no, so they sold the cows, but they kept all the equipment and all the animals, the land. The animals left. So my husband went off to college, and when he came back, we got together and got married. And as soon as I got pregnant, he said, I want my kids to grow up on the farm. And I was like, what? I was a dental hygienist and pretty much thought that's what I was going to do forever. And he said, no, I want to buy some more cows. We have everything down here for a farm. Let's do it. And I'm like, I'm from Upper Michigan. I don't know anything about dairy farming. Like, we're right next to Wisconsin, but the topography was so different. We were logging and iron ore mining where I grew up. So I never understood dairy farming. I didn't know a single thing. So maybe ignorance is bliss, right? So we jumped in. So 2 weeks before my son was born, we bought a herd of cows. And life was really tough back then. It was not an organic dairy farm yet. Conventional farming was all my husband knew growing up. You know, conventional farming is putting pesticides on your corn so you don't have weeds. Herbicides, pesticides. buying commercial fertilizer. These were things that kind of came along in the 50s and 60s, and farmers just kind of went along with it. This is what you did to grow your crops. And the organic movement actually started in Vermont very early. And so by the time we were married and trying to farm and not making very good money at all, in 3 years we had to sell the herd because the same prices they're dealing with today. In 1990, May of 1990, we were getting $17 a hundredweight for milk, which at that point was really good. And so we got a cow loan, we got an equipment loan. We purchased the equipment from his parents at a discount, but we still had an equipment loan, and we rented the farm. And we could make it at $17 milk, but it crashed down to 11 and stayed there. And the next thing you know, we couldn't make our payments, and after 3 years, they had to go. It took us 2 years to pay off all our bills that we had built up. But these are the same prices farmers are dealing with today. Right now, I believe conventional farmers are getting something like $14.50 a hundredweight. So think of the cost today compared to 1990. You know, fuel is higher, electricity is higher, you know, everything, grain especially, is costing more, and these poor conventional farmers are just having such a tough time. And in Vermont, they're on their way out,
A lot of
left
them
and
are
right.
going bankrupt.
Yes, so conventional farmers have it really rough, and a lot of these small farms in Vermont are going out of business. But so back in the 90s, we bought a herd in 90, sold in 93. Back in 99, we decided to get another herd, and we did buy a conventional herd because around that time we were starting to think about making cheese. And we still didn't really understand organic versus conventional. We thought making cheese might be able to make it work, a value-added product. But that was when the organic movement was really hitting strong, and we just didn't understand it. We're like, can you really farm that way? You know, is it hard? What do you do? What do you have to do? And my husband was really nervous because conventional was all he knew. But so we got hooked up with NOFA Vermont. They're the organic certifying establishment here in Vermont, and they sent tech support down and told us, you know, any field that had corn planted on it or herbicides or pesticides had to wait 3 years before it could be certified organic.
Was that because it has to clear?
It does, yeah. And we actually had to, you know, grow hay and sell that feed off every year. And then fields that just had cow manure on them could be organic, but that wasn't a lot of what we had. It was just like pasture land a little bit. So we did it. It was a long 3 years, you know, selling, you know, good feed off the farm to conventional farmers and buying in organic feed. And then all of our grain had to switch over. So organic basically means 3 things. I try to keep it simple. It's every morsel of food that the cows eat is organic. So the grain is organic, the hay is organic, nothing grown with herbicides or pesticides or GMO, which is a hot thing now. No GMOs allowed in organic. And then the second thing is they have to get exercise. Once the animals are 6 months old, they need to get exercise out in the farm fields, have access to the outdoors every day, and, you know, pastures. So they're good pasture animals. During the growing season, they have to get a certain percentage of dry matter intake from the pastures. I believe it's 35%. So you got to pasture a lot. And the third thing is no drugs, no hormones to set them up for breeding, no antibiotics, just natural methods that, you know, if a cow were to get sick. But most of the time the biggest thing is mastitis with cows. And when you're a small dairy farm, you can pay attention to that and do what you have to do without drugs. You know, things like stripping out her teats on her udder so that she cleans out better. Things like that you can do. So we were pleasantly surprised. We did it, and we discovered these same animals that we transitioned over to organic methods became healthier. And I always tell people we kind of came in the back door to organics because we just did it strictly as a business decision to stay alive. We were very leery, we didn't think we understood it, and then when you see how healthy your animals become, I always tell people now, we should be doing this. Eat all organic food, get exercise every day, and don't do drugs. And we'd be so healthy.
That's true.
It's hard
That's
to
true.
do.
We should send that
It's-
message to everybody.
It's
yeah.
hard to do,
Yeah.
though. I mean, it's hard to buy everything organic, you know? It's hard to exercise every day. But the cows have it all done for them. They don't have to think about it.
So what mixture of breed cows do you have?
We have mostly Holstein and some Jerseys mixed in there. And my son, 2 years ago, my son now has bought the cows and equipment. And we have kept the cheese
So
plant.
this is third generation.
Bobby, yep. And he's my oldest son. And we never pushed farming on any of our 3 children because it's been pretty rough all along. And we never were sure that we would want that for them because it's been so hard to stay alive. But he's totally into it. So he and his wife, Brooke, who grew up on a farm over the mountain in Tunbridge, she's a real cow lady and we love her to pieces. And they have taken on the cows now. So the dynamics have changed a little bit. We still have the cheese plant. Now we buy the milk from him. And half of our milk goes into cheese and the other half goes to Stonyfield Yogurt in New Hampshire.
That's what they were telling us about.
Yeah.
So the most of your cheeses, I understand, are cheddars. You really
Yeah.
work with a cheddar.
Yeah.
That tends to be.
Yeah, it's kind of funny from our business plan. I'm Italian and I really wanted to make Italian cheeses. I made provolone at home, mozzarella, fresh mozzarella, and we tried to do a business plan for that. But when we went out and started talking to like co-ops and natural food stores, they're like, oh, you're organic? We want an organic cheddar, and we really want an organic raw milk cheddar. And we're like, what is that? And it's just making the cheese before you pasteurize the milk, and the FDA requires 60 days of aging, and it's a natural pasteurizing. So after 60 days, it's just as if the milk was pasteurized, but it's really healthy for you. A lot more of the enzymes stay in that milk and into the cheese to help you digest it. So I was like, cheddar? I don't want to do cheddar. It's so well done in Vermont already. Everybody's doing cheddar. How can you match the beautiful cheddar that's already being done in Vermont? But when that's what the customers asked for, and the Italian cheeses were going to be a lot harder to market.
Supply and demand. Yeah.
So we kind of fit right into that niche, and 18 years later, we're still in that niche.
Now, I noticed around, there's quite a few awards. So you go and take your cheeses with you and you go and get judged on it. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's been an honor to receive awards. We started making cheese in 01, and already in 05 we started winning awards. Like our green onion cheddar and our Monterey Jack took second place that year. And so we don't win every year, but every once in a while, a couple of years ago, we won again for, like, we don't even put all of our awards up anymore. But consistently our Colby tends to win.
Oh,
Now our
Colby
Colby,
does.
it's very interesting. I grew up in Upper Michigan on cheese from Wisconsin, and Colby originated, it's an American original that's like a cousin of cheddar. It goes through most of the same process except for the cheddaring at the end that dries out the cheese so that it can age longer. So Colby and Monterey Jack are very similar. We do both of those. Monterey came from Monterey, California. Colby originated in Colby, Wisconsin, and they're almost the same recipe, a little different, really close. And one is traditionally colored orange, which is what the Midwest tends to do with their cheese.
I know. Why do they color
I
it orange?
know. I had a lady from Cabot tell me the best way, because I grew up on orange cheese, and I never thought of it. But she said, Linda, I go to shows all over the country, and when somebody asks me why my cheese isn't orange, I just say, well, what color is the milk when it comes out of the cow? And they're like, oh, it's white.
Yeah.
But you know, when cows are on pasture, the keratins come out a little more in the milk, so
Yeah,
you
they
do
do.
get a little bit of yellowing. So we don't really know for sure if that's why they started adding annatto. And annatto is just a natural vegetable coloring. We actually use organic annatto for our Colby. And my husband was like, we can't make that. We're in New England. It will never sell. It won't work. And I said, but it's the one I loved growing up. We're going to do that one. and it has won the most
Oh my
awards
gosh.
out of all of our
I'm
cheese.
gonna have to tell my husband
It's
because he
takeout.
always asks, why do you
Yeah.
have orange
Yeah.
cheese? Yeah.
We have some stores that won't even buy it because in the lineup of cheeses, the orange one kind of
It
stands out.
yeah.
But kids like it and adults like it.
So how many of the family members work on the farm, or how many even do you have staff working here?
Yeah, we're a very small operation. So on the cheese side, I have Gabby who helps me in the office Monday and Tuesday, and then I do the rest of the week. And then we have Jarvis, who's our head cheesemaker, and his assistant is Mark.
Yes, and Mark has a farm, right?
Yes, he just
yes.
moved up from Connecticut. His dream is to
So-
have
so,
a
yeah.
produce, flour, possibly goats. Very exciting. And then I have Terry, who is a friend who comes in part-time for packaging days. And she also comes from a dairy farm, an organic dairy farm, the Conant farm that goes back many generations here in Randolph. So really, Mark and Jarvis are full-time, pretty much, and Gabby and Terry are part-time. So on the farm side, it's, excuse me, just my son Bobby, his wife Brooke, and a neighbor, Eric, from his farm just next door. He has a farm his grandmother still owns, and his dad and his uncle work there. And he had worked there, but it's a small farm and it's conventional, which is very tough. And they couldn't have that many people working there. So it was great. He's already trained.
Yes,
and
so he knows.
we've brought him over.
That's great,
That's
that's
great.
great. It's sort of like a neighborly, that's,
Yeah,
neighborly
they're-
farm.
yeah.
So is that why that became the name? Is
Yeah,
that,
well, so
it's
that's
like a community.
It
around
is. I have 2 granddaughters on the farm here now, and Emily, who's 2, she helps her mom feed the cows.
Oh, I love
And
it.
she is
I
just
love
the
it.
cutest little farm girl, not afraid of the cows. She storms right up to them and talks to them. It's so cute. We
So
just love
it's
it.
going to be carrying on for another generation.
And raising kids on a farm is
Oh,
like
it's
nothing
good.
else. And I've always said to my children and my husband, you don't know how good you have it because you've always had all this open space. I grew up in a little subdivision where we were right there with our neighbors, which was fine, but you don't realize how awesome it is until you live here.
And we need to maintain our farms
Yes.
and our farmers because there's so many companies out there buying up the property. And
Right.
it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be
Yeah.
like the Vermont that I grew up in.
know.
and
It's
stuff,
so
yeah.
important to keep the land open. Vermont has a lot of good things in the works to help farmers stay farmers, and it's just something that would really hurt my husband if this farm ever got developed. It would be awful. But mostly what happens in Vermont is small farms will get bought up by a bigger farm, so the land still gets farmed. It's still sad though because it's not
So it's
that
like
little.
a lot of co-ops now.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah,
The farms tend to get bigger, even though our cow numbers are going down every year, and that's very sad. But we're just gonna keep on keeping on.
Oh, good, good,
Yeah.
good. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yes, we thank you very much. Yes, when it comes in, when you have the milk, exactly the whole process, how does it go about?
So in the morning, I draw milk from the bulk tank. The bulk
Okay.
tank holds the milk at 38 degrees. And then I run it through the pasteurizer, which is that equipment in the corner. This pasteurizer heats the milk up to 161 degrees, and then it holds that temperature for 22 seconds, and then cools it back down to 90 degrees, puts it right into the vat. Once I have my milk, this morning we had 57, 80 pounds. And I added my culture, just like if you make bread.
Okay.
You sort of put in the yeast in warm water, let it sit for a while, and then stir
Stir
in.
it, yeah.
Do the exact same thing. Once that was ready to go, I then added my coagulant, which is a rennet. We use a vegetable rennet here. I poured it in and stirred it for a little bit, and then let it set for half an hour. After 30 minutes, the whole thing just turned into jello. So then I take these blades above the pot sink here, and we have a set pattern that we drag them back and forth with. And that just cuts it up. If you ever had cottage cheese, it just looks like
Yeah.
cottage cheese just floating around in the way at that point. I and then cooked it to 102, held that temperature for an hour, just stirring, and drained it. So what the stage we're in right now is the cheddaring process, where we've drained the whey, and every 20 minutes we've been flipping what we call pillows, and this is allowing for the pH to continue to go down, and for the whey to continue to be squeezed out. So we keep stacking them higher and higher, and this is allowing more of the whey to come out, and letting them stay warm as well. So in a few minutes here, we're going to take those pillows, chop them up. So I'm trying to cut it into thin strips so it's easy for Mark to mill.
What's the consistency of that?
It looks kind of spongy.
It does.
A little
It is.
spongy.
It's fluffy.
Yeah.
Fluffy.
Fluffy. More accurate.
So when you get a curd that's fluffy, at least the way that we make it, that means it's ripe. And run through the milling machine, which will turn everything into like a little cheese French fry. My job is just to spread it out. Mark does all the hard work. And this makes it easier for us to add our salt and flavoring. We pre-measured the bowl, so we're just trying to add 1/3 at a time, allowing the stir it up, then let it sit for 5 minutes.
And then some more.
Just leave it right back.
So how did you learn the process of cheese making?
So I met the owners when I was volunteering doing dishes, and they said, "Hey, you're really fast. Come work for me."
And why do you keep, as you were shoveling, why do you keep doing that? Just to kind of dry it out, or?
To stick together if I don't.
Okay.
And, I want the salt to coat every turn. Consistent flavor. Once that's all set, we then take all the cheese and we put it in the blocks. We're going to shovel in about each one to about 45 pounds, and then they're going to press overnight, and they'll be about 40 in the morning. The rest of that was just whey and butter squeezing out.
So you said each tray will be 45 pounds worth?
Yep.
Yep.
And then
It's 39. Perfect.
and then they'll sit in the cooler. This is going to be sharp, so in about 12 to 14 months this will come out. I'll eat
So
it.
it's a longer process for sharp.
Yep, so if I were to make raw, mild, sharp, and extra sharp, there's very little changes on this end. It's mostly just the aging
The
process.
aging process. Now, same amount of salt for all of it.
So that's based off the butter fat, so we have a formula. So if there's a lot, we put less. If there's less, then we put more.
Because you don't want it to spoil. Does salt help with it?
Yep, that is our only.
Like a curing type.
Yeah, that's our only preservative. So yep.
So what is the weight of this that you have in the vat now? About roughly?
So this is going to be about 600 pounds worth of cheese. This probably weighs around 800 pounds because it's still got some water in it, you know.
And that's why you're getting the pH, you're tossing it back and forth, and it helps to get some of the water out.
Right, and giving it time for the culture to grow
Grow.
and increase the acid level. And
And
we're looking for a very specific number at the end of the day before we mill. We're about 4 points above it, so we're definitely going to get there on time. And by hitting that number, basically what we're going to allow it to do is that when it hits that number, it's now going to be, basically the culture stops growing, it's done. The acid is too low, it's now going to neutralize itself. And if you don't hit that number quite right, you can get a very bitter cheese because it's never reached that acid. So it's kind of an important number for us to get to.
This one's coming out to see what's going on. Hi, sweetie.
Baby cow. So do you want to breed them? Oh.